Kenya, a mother elephant gives birth to twins.
Conservation group says twins make up only about 1% of elephant births. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Ricky Mathay.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. The House of Representatives is one with the Marcos administration's policies on the ICC. Chinese jets circle a Philippine aircraft during a joint air patrol. Russia launches its largest drone attack against Ukraine. The Independent Republic of Sierra Leone declares national curfew after military armory raid. And Italy wins its first Davis Cup title in 47 years. House Speaker Martin Romualdez has declared that the chamber will adhere to the administration's position regarding the International Criminal Court's drug war probe. In a statement, Romualdez said, and I quote, "We will take it as is. We will follow the policies." This is in response to the reports that the Philippine government is now studying the possibility of returning to the fold of the ICC. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. previously disclosed that his office received a proposal for the country to rejoin the ICC. This is after the House of Representatives began discussing measures urging government agencies to cooperate with the ICC representatives. Currently, there are 3 resolutions pending in the House. These measures were filed by Representatives Bienvenido Abante, Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez, and Edsel Lagman.
Diesel and kerosene pump prices are set to increase tomorrow. Oil firms said that diesel prices will go up by 65 centavos per liter, while kerosene price will rise by 30 centavos per liter. Gasoline prices, however, will remain stagnant for this week.
A recent survey conducted by the Social Weather Stations, or SWS, has revealed that more adult Filipinos have reported a decline in their quality of life over the past year. The poll was carried out from the 28th of September to the 1st of October. According to the survey results, 30% of respondents said that their lives had gotten worse, while 28% stated that their quality of life had improved during the previous 12 months. Additionally, 41% reported that their lives had remained the same. Based on these figures, the SWS calculated a score of -2, which is classified as fair. This score is the lowest recorded since June 2022, which also had a similar rating. In comparison, the previous study conducted from the 28th of June to the 1st of July of this year showed that 33% of Filipinos believed their lives had improved, 22% said it had worsened, and 45% reported that it stayed the same. This resulted in a score of 11, categorized as very high. The net gainers score, which measures the percentage of gainers minus losers, had been negative until 2015 when it turned positive. However, it experienced a significant decline with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdowns. While the score has shown some improvement since then, it has not fully recovered pre-pandemic or to pre-pandemic levels.
According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the value of traded goods in the country experienced a significant decline in the third quarter of the year, accompanied by a decrease in volume. During the months of July to September, the value of traded goods decreased by 38.3%, amounting to 190.812 billion pesos. This is in comparison to the 309.459 billion pesos recorded in the same period of the previous year. This decline in value marks a reversal from the 17% growth observed in the third quarter of 2022, as well as the 15.8% expansion in the previous quarter. In addition to the decline in value. The volume of traded goods also experienced a drop of 24.2%. The volume decreased to 4.9 million tons in the third quarter, down from the 6.47 million tons recorded in the same period last year. The data show that the traded goods encompass a wide range of commodities, with the majority being transported through water.
10 resolutions were adopted to strengthen regional cooperation among member countries during the 31st Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum, or APPF, hosted by the Philippines. The event saw the participation of 300 parliament members from 28 countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Originally, member states proposed 37 resolutions, but the APPF drafting committee consolidated them into 10 key resolutions. These resolutions cover various important areas, including combating transnational crimes, women's participation in leadership, Korean Peninsula and regional cooperation and universal health care, among others. In addition to the resolutions, the Philippines received support from 16 APPF member states for its bid to secure a non-permanent seat in the United Nations National Security Council. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri expresses satisfaction at the closing of the forum, highlighting that member states were impressed with the Philippines' hosting of the event.
In other news, House Speaker Martin Romualdez said that the Maharlika Investment Corporation was endorsed during the 31st Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum. During the summit, parliament leaders and representatives from 19 countries participated in the annual meeting. Romualdez disclosed that on the sidelines of the forum, they mentioned the implementation of the Maharlika Investment Corporation. This year's forum was co-chaired by Romualdez with Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has long described the Maharlika Investment Fund as a game changer that could help the country's economic growth.
The Philippine Air Force's Super Tucano light attack aircraft was circled by 2 Chinese jets during the joint patrols with Australia in the Spratly Islands. Despite Beijing's interference, the Philippine aircraft maintained its course and successfully completed its patrol. Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff Romeo Bronner Jr. emphasized that the exercise was conducted in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This first maritime cooperative activity between the Philippines and Australia began on Saturday and concluded today, and comes just 2 days after the joint patrols with the United States in the same sea area. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. emphasized that this partnership with Australia, the Philippines' second-largest defense partner, is focused on enhancing bilateral interoperability, particularly in maritime security and domain awareness.
The Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has confirmed the safety of 2 Filipino seafarers who were on board in a hijacked ship in the Gulf of Aden. The hijacking incident occurred on Sunday when the chemical tanker Central Park was seized in the Gulf of Aden off the coast of Africa. The DMW conducted a thorough check of its records and coordinated with a licensed manning agency to confirm the presence of at least 2 Filipino seafarers among the ship's crew. According to the United States Naval Institute, American naval forces successfully thwarted the hijacking attempt and ensured the safety and freedom of both the ship and its crew. In response to the incident, the DMW has reached out to the vessel's shipping agencies to obtain a comprehensive report on the incident. They have also initiated contact with the families and relatives of the Filipino seafarers on board. This is the second hijacking incident involving marine vessels with Filipino seafarers in their crew within the span of 2 weeks. Coming up, South Korea, Japan, and China agree to resume trilateral leaders summit. Russia launches a large-scale drone attack on Ukraine. And Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa unveils his ministerial cabinet. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Inyong katuwang, tungkol sa usaping ito.
Nasa puso dapat ng Pilipino to love what is Filipino.
Kaya dapat ihayag ng saloobin.
Kahit gaano kasi karami yung doktor natin, ay kung may bayad din, baliwala din.
Paano makakabili ang Pilipino ng bigas?
Himayin ang hinaing.
Gaano karaming pera bang kailangan mo para maging masaya ka?
Alamin ang pwedeng gawin.
So I think the lesson is, pag may fake news, i-correct ka agad ng people concerned.
Sagutin mo agad. Mag-reality check tayo.
Check yun.
Check.
Check na check.
Double check.
Check the check tayo dyan.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China have agreed to expedite their preparations for a trilateral summit. This came after the foreign ministers' meeting between Park Jin, Yoko Kamikawa, and Wang Yi convened in the southern port city of Busan. The three top officials, however, have not disclosed any specific time frame for the summit. During the foreign minister meet, diverse cooperation projects in areas such as trade, technology, public health, and the like were also agreed to be pushed. The meeting marked the first since 2019 due to persisting legal disputes on Japan's colonial 1910 to 45 rule over the Korean Peninsula.
North Korea vowed on Monday that it would continue launching spy satellites to protect its sovereign rights. Pyongyang's foreign ministry asserted that the launch of its reconnaissance satellite last week was due to the necessity to monitor the United States and its allies. The ministry also said their actions were legal and just way to exercise their right to defend their government from Washington as well as its followers. Meanwhile, South Korean military officials observed that Pyongyang had been beefing up its defense by bringing back heavy weapons and setting up guard posts in the demilitarized zone. North Korea did not comment or confirm South Korea's statement.
Meanwhile, a rescue drama in northern India has entered its third week as 41 men remain trapped in a highway tunnel that collapsed. It was 15 days ago during a shift change that the tunnel under construction gave way. Since then, tons of rubble have imprisoned the workers. Thomas Likeness has that story.
2 weeks of efforts to free the men have failed. Now, here's what's happening now. Digging is going on in 3 directions, but has suffered repeated setbacks. On Sunday, the military brought in a superheated plasma cutter. It will be used to remove a giant earth boring drill that broke down and other metal blocking the original horizontal route. After that, digging will continue by hand. Now, vertical drilling is also underway to dig 89 meters downwards. This is a risky approach. It's right above the men in an area that's already suffered a collapse. Work has also started on a third route on the far side of the tunnel. This is much longer. It's estimated crews will have to auger their way through some 480 meters of ground and rock. Whichever route succeeds, no one is suggesting how long it will take. So what about those trapped inside? The men were seen alive for the first time on Tuesday. That's when they peered into the lens of an endoscopic camera sent in through a thin pipe. This pipe is also supplying the men with air, food, water, and electricity. Their health is being monitored by doctors, including psychiatrists. And they've been able to talk with their families via a basic telephone exchange set up at the site. One family member says 3 of his cousins are in that tunnel, and he says if they escape, they will never work inside the tunnel again. For families and the trapped workers alike, it's an ordeal that has no end in sight. Thomas I. Likeness from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A Beijing court has begun hearing compensation cases filed by families of Chinese victims who died on board the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. The Malaysian airplane disappeared on March 8, 2014, carrying 239 people, mostly from China, en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Aviation experts and investigating teams from different countries did not find the plane, but some of its debris was recovered across the Indian Ocean. Australia also led an operation to search for MH370, the largest in aviation history, but found no success. The operation was suspended on January 2017.
可以说到10年了，这个法院终于正式开庭了。我们觉得呢，是一个欣慰的事情，是一个转折点。但是10年当中，家属的这种生存、生活的境遇的这种恶化，有很多家属因为治病啊、没有钱啊，可能都离开了我们。这点确实让我们感到也很悲哀。所以法律的救济，我希望能够尽快的实现，它不难。
State media says more than 40 families have filed lawsuits against Malaysia Airlines, the aircraft manufacturer Boeing, engine maker Rolls-Royce, and Alliance Insurance Group. Relatives of MH370 victims insist that under applicable laws, they should receive compensation as their beloveds did not arrive at the plane's destination. Aside from requests for compensation, a lawyer for the families of victims say their clients demand the authorities to find the truth behind MH370's disappearance.
家属现在主要关心的不是这个赔偿的结果，我们主要还希望恢复这个搜救，搜索，因为毕竟还没有准确的消息嘛，我们还希望搜救，建立这个基金，重新搜救这个三。
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin also says that Beijing attaches great importance to MH370's incident.
中国政府高度重视马航 MH370 客机事件后续工作，希望各方继续保持密切沟通，妥善处理。
Malaysia's Transport Ministry and Malaysia Airlines both declined to comment on the hearings.
After ruling out that Ukraine can be Russia, some sources say the United States has sent its signal to Kyiv for talks. RT correspondent Don Kurtner tells us more.
Biden's done a complete 180 on backing Zelensky's pie-in-the-sky dreams of a total victory against Russia. Thousands of people thrown into a meat grinder, billions of dollars to the wind, and now Kyiv's being called to the negotiating table.
In this tough and dynamic battle, Ukraine's soldiers are fighting bravely every single day, and they continue to inspire the world with their bravery and courage. We will continue to support them to be in the strongest possible position at the negotiating table when the time comes. We continue to stand united with Ukraine while they defend their freedom.
Although the U.S. mission was forced to clarify, this doesn't mean caving to Russia's attempts to redraw borders. It's a hard turn away from the White House's until recent determination to banish any thought of negotiation. War weariness is taking its toll, with the mainstream media also playing a more conciliatory tune.
It's time to end magical thinking about Russia's defeat. Putin has withstood the West's best efforts to reverse his invasion of Ukraine, and his hold on power is firm. The U.S. and its allies need a new strategy: containment.
A frank admission of Kyiv's failures from a publication that long claimed Ukraine could win if only it had more weapons. The French publication Le Figaro is also publishing stories that not so long ago were labeled Russian propaganda, like the fact that the economic meltdown and diplomatic isolation the West had predicted for Russia never happened. Even Kyiv knows the Western war machine's wheels are starting to slow, especially with Western eyes on the Israel-Palestine conflict.
The U.S. officials were telling us it wouldn't influence the commitments from the U.S., but it did.
According to one anonymous Ukrainian official, U.S. shell deliveries to Kyiv have dropped over 30% since October 7th. On top of that, Ukraine's armed forces chief is saying there's not likely to be a major breakthrough without an overhaul of the country's military capabilities.
Russia should not be underestimated. It has suffered heavy losses and expended a lot of ammunition, but it will have superiority in weapons, equipment, missiles, and ammunition for a considerable time.
Like sand through one's fingers, Kiev's fantasy of victory against Russia is fading away, with the ex-president of the Council on Foreign Relations admitting it's time to cut a deal, something the organization once denounced as a Putin talking point.
Even if we give everything we need to give to Ukraine, it still won't lead to success. Therefore, the US needs to have some very direct conversations with Ukraine and talk about reducing their emphasis on liberating land, increasingly put their emphasis on holding on to what they've got. The idea that 1 or 2 or 3 more years of this is going to result in success, I simply don't see it. Any time in life there's a big gap between what you're trying to do and your ability to do it. You either need to increase your means or lower your goals. Here, the only realistic option is to lower our goals.
1, 2, 3, and poof! The West's made yesterday's Russian propaganda into today's level-headed politicking, as if it was never any other way.
In other news, Ukrainian officials reported that Russia launched its most extensive drone attack on Ukraine since the beginning of the war. According to reports, a total of 75 drones were launched by Russia, 74 of which were purportedly shot down by Ukrainian air defenses. As a result of the attack, power outages occurred in 77 residential buildings and 120 institutions due to the damage caused to 4 power lines. In addition to Kyiv, other regions were also targeted in this attack, including Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, and Kirovohrad. The southern Kherson region in particular was reportedly shelled 100 times over the 24-hour period of the assault.
Some political analysts believe that former United States President Donald Trump will expand the role of military within the country in an effort to tackle civil unrest. In his campaign speech in Iowa, Trump said he was prevented during his presidency from using the military to quell violence in primarily Democratic cities and states. Though he did not explain to his audience how he would use the military during his second term, he warned New York City and Chicago crime dens that next time he would not wait but enforce it. The Insurrection Act of 1807 allows United States presidents to deploy reserve or active duty military units to respond to unrest in the states. The same law provides that such authority is not reviewable by the courts. Analysts say deploying the military regularly within the U.S. borders would be a departure from tradition. But Trump has said previously that if he wins the presidency, he would impose travel bans on certain countries and strengthen the border walls of the United States to stop refugees from Mexico. Sources say a spokesman for Trump's campaign did not respond to any requests for comment about how Trump will pursue his plans.
Hamas has released more hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners on day 3 of a shaky 4-day truce. A third group set free on Sunday included a 4-year-old American girl. Arlino Campo has more.
There are signs the truce may be extended. A source close to the militants says Hamas is willing to prolong it for 2 to 4 days. Israel is facing mounting international pressure to extend the pause in fighting, which has been mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States. U.S. President Joe Biden says the circle of violence in the Middle East has to come to an end.
We need to renew our resolve to pursue this two-state solution, where Israelis and Palestinians can one day live side by side in a two-state solution, with equal measure of freedom and dignity. 2 states for 2 peoples. And it's more important now than ever.
Hamas captured about 240 people on October 7th when it attacked Israel. Sunday's release of 17 hostages brings to 39 the number freed under the deal. Hamas had agreed to free 50 hostages over the 4 days in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners. Arlino Campo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A national curfew has been declared in the West African nation of Sierra Leone following an attack at the military armory in the capital of Freetown. The government says it remains in full control of the country. Rosel Feria reports.
The attack early Sunday is being described by Sierra Leone President Julius Maada Bio as an attempt to destabilize the state. Gunmen stormed the country's main barracks, but the military repelled them. Witnesses report hearing exchanges of gunfire and explosions. The Information Ministry says later, gunmen broke into prisons and set inmates free. BO says calm has been restored.
Most of the leaders have been arrested. Security operations and investigations are ongoing. We will ensure that those responsible are held accountable through due process.
Authorities are not commenting on the identity of the attackers or their motives. People are being told to stay home while security operations continue. Flights in and out of Sierra Leone have been canceled until the curfew is lifted. Rosel Feria for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
3 days after assuming power, Ecuador's new president Daniel Noboa presented his ministerial cabinet to the public. The General Secretariat of Communications said Noboa's cabinet is mostly made up of women and young people who head strategic departments of the state. Noboa will serve as Ecuador's president for only 18 months. He was sworn in on Thursday after former President Guillermo Lasso called snap elections to avoid possible impeachment.
While hundreds of thousands of people around the globe on the weekend protested to denounce violence against women, the demonstration in Argentina had special significance. With the recent election of far-right libertarian Javier Milei as president, women are concerned about losing rights. Estela Dominique reports.
Thousands took to the streets of Buenos Aires in defense of gender policies after President Javier Milei's election. He has suggested eliminating the Ministry of Women, Genders and Diversity, which is in charge of preventing gender violence. Milei has also taken hardline stances on issues such as equal pay. One protester, an 80-year-old lawyer, says there is a victim of femicide in Argentina every 27 hours. Others say it's time to mobilize in face of the advance of the right wing in the world. Demonstrators in Buenos Aires combined their protests on violence against women with a show of support for the Palestinian people. Estela Dominique from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nissan and its partners announced a £2 billion deal to build 3 electric car models in their Sunderland factory. The Japanese car maker will build electric Qashqai and Juke models alongside their next generation of the electric vehicle Leaf.
Today we are confirming an additional 2 new EV models for production here in UK. These 3 vehicles will be future versions of the Nissan icons here in front of us: Qashqai, Juke, and Leaf. These 3 models are enabling investments up to £3 billion in our future. Today, 3 is a magic number.
Nissan said the work scheme could also help preserve the jobs of about 6,000 workers directly and thousands more across the United Kingdom. The car company added they also needed a gigafactory for their new battery plants. Nissan President and CEO Makoto Uchida said they expect all their car sales in Europe to be electronic vehicles by the year 2030.
It is another significant milestone in the partnership programme that places Sunderland at the centre of electric vehicle production in Europe, creating jobs and prosperity for this powerhouse region and supporting the low-carbon ambitions of all of our partners.
Finance Minister Christian Lindner says Germany's $219 billion fund will expire at the end of this year. The fund, known as the Economic and Stabilization Fund, is one of the off-budget funds ruled unconstitutional by Germany's highest court. It was enacted to soften the impact of rising energy prices and to protect households and companies from its effects. Lindner confirms that there will be no more payouts from the fund and the energy price breaks will also be terminated. He also did not specify whether energy supports could be sourced out from Germany's regular budget in 2024. Next, Japanese people are turning cleanup litter into a competition. Thousands of women take to the streets for International Day for the elimination of violence against women. And hundreds of dogs in several U.S. states are plagued with a mysterious, potentially fatal illness. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Expose, viral at exclusive. Mga reklamo at problema na napapanood at na-post sa social media. Ngayon, aaksyonan na rin ng Responde. Kaya kung meron po kayong nais na isumbong, mag-text sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com. Pwede rin kayo magpadala ng mensahe sa ating pong Facebook page at Net25TV. Walang problema na hindi mabibigyan po ng solusyon. Basta't may agad na responde. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Dito lamang sa Net25.
Ang Best Public Affairs Program. And the star goes to Open for Business Net25.
It is a signal to the world that we are open for business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Competitive litter hunters sifted through Tokyo for an unusual first World Championship. 21 countries battled it out for the Spogomi World Cup. The participant who collected the most rubbish within a set time limit wins the championship, solidifying an eco-friendly spot in people's hearts. Spogomi founder Kenichi Mamitsuki said that at first people could not understand what was the event all about, but word got around and now many people involved in the Spogomi World Cup.
もう全く理解されずに遊び半分のゴミ拾いとかふざけた社会貢献活動とか言われて、悔しい思いいっぱいしてきたんですけど、ですけど参加してくれた方たちがやっぱりゴミ拾いながらまた帰っていったりとか、ちっちゃい子が家に帰って家のゴミを分別し始めたりとか、そういういい効果がたくさん出てきてるっていうのを聞いて。
Some of the participants came from Australia, Malaysia, Britain, and France. They enjoyed joining the environmental-friendly game.
I already had the passion because the environment, whatever happens to the environment is because of us, because humans have human activities. So whatever we have to do, we have to return back to the original condition of the earth like last time.
Jonathan Winship, British participant and winner of the Spogomi World Cup, said he hopes the event will eventually get more popularity.
I hope it gets really popular. I think there's a lot of potential for it to. It's a lot of fun. It's really physical. You know, we're going to be sore tomorrow, so it actually is a proper. You know, it does feel like a proper sport. You know, we both play football, and we were just as tired doing that.
In Pakistan, a large fire erupted in a shopping mall, killing at least 11 people. The local fire department said it dispatched a truck to the Karachi Mall to control the blaze. Rescuers were reportedly saved at least 40 people. According to Pakistan's emergency services, 35 individuals suffered from burns and carbon monoxide poisoning. Local officials said the investigation to trace the cause of the fire is underway.
Police say the shooting of 3 university students of Palestinian descent in the northeastern United States on the weekend may be a hate crime. Authorities say the shooter, described as a white man with a handgun, is still at large. Julian Bukayan tells us more.
3 men in their 20s are recovering in a hospital from gunshot wounds they received Saturday evening.
Police say the trio had been walking down a street in Burlington, Vermont, after visiting a relative for the Thanksgiving holiday when the gunman confronted them. A police spokesman says, without speaking, the suspect fired at least 4 rounds from a pistol. 2 of the victims are U.S. citizens, the third is a legal resident. The men had been wearing the traditional black and white Palestinian scarf. While no motive has been confirmed, Burlington Police Chief John Murad says no one can look at this incident and not suspect it may have been a hate-motivated crime. The shooting comes as civil rights groups are warning of a rise in hate crimes against Arab and Muslim Americans. Julian Bukayan for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of murdering George Floyd, was stabbed in prison by a fellow inmate last Friday. But Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara has confirmed that Chauvin is now in stable condition. The state general office also said that the former police officer is expected to survive and be back in prison. The United States Prisons Bureau, which has custody of Chauvin, did not elaborate on how and why Chauvin was attacked, citing safety and privacy concerns.
A Thai para-athlete and former soldier shot his bride and 3 others before taking his own life on their wedding day in northeast Thailand. According to reports, the groom, Chaturong Suksuk, abruptly left the wedding party and returned with a gun, shooting his wife Kanchana Pachuntuek, her 62-year-old mother, and 38-year-old sister. 2 guests were also hit by stray bullets and were rushed to the hospital. Tragically, one of them did not survive. Authorities have mentioned that the groom was intoxicated at the time of the incident, but his motive remains unclear. They said that Chaturong had legally purchased the gun and ammunition the previous year. Thai media, citing accounts from guests at the party, reported that the couple had an argument during the celebration. Chaturong had apparently expressed insecurities regarding the age difference between him and Kanchana. However, the police have stated that these details are still speculative, but have collected evidence and expect to conclude the investigation soon.
On the 25th of November, thousands of people worldwide took to the streets to denounce violence against women on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Demonstrations were held in Europe and the Americas, with protesters passionately expressing their concerns. United States President Joe Biden acknowledged the persistent issue of gender-based violence, emphasizing that it continues to inflict pain and injustice on far too many individuals. Statistics indicate that around 1 in 3 women globally will experience physical violence, sexual assault, or stalking at some point in their lives. Protesters around the world initiated commemorations by carrying portraits of victims and displaying banners with powerful messages such as "We will not remain silent" and "Women are united and fighting against male state violence."
If you want to live in Sweden, you might need to meet certain requirements to stay. You have to be well-behaved and honest. Jay Suarez reports.
Sweden's government wants to introduce what it calls honest living requirements for immigrants. These requirements open the door for deportations based on substance abuse, association with criminal groups, or statements threatening Swedish democratic values. Migration Minister Maria Malmer Stenegard says a prerequisite for successful integration is adhering to basic norms and living in an honest and well-behaved way. Minister for Gender Equality Pauline Brandberg says it applies to people who don't comply with the rules, those who benefit from fraud or abuse of Sweden's common welfare system. Brandberg adds it is also about associating, being in close association or participation with criminal networks, clans, or violent or extremist organizations. She says if it is something other than Sweden's democratic values that one desires or that actively opposes, there are other places where they can live. Jay Suarez for Matanang Agila International, Trusted Connected on Point.
A powerful storm has hit Crimea and southern Russia. Local authorities say the storm's severe winds knocked down trees and ripped off roofs. Nearly 500,000 residents are left without electric power. There are also reports of water supply interruptions in several communities. Rescuers also relocated some 142 people to temporary facilities. 3 people were injured and hospitalized. The storm also caused damage to at least 23 houses and 17 vehicles. Local authorities set up emergency meetings to address the situation immediately.
Climate activists held up traffic in the German capital of Berlin on the weekend. They want the country to abandon all fossil fuels by the end of the decade. Elise Danielle reports.
Police say about 800 protesters blocked streets in central Berlin near the Brandenburg Gate. Some sat on the road while others remained standing. They held banners that read, "Stop the fossil fuel nonsense," and "Climate Revolution Now." The protesters belong to the climate protection movement, Last Generation. They say the government is spending $60 billion on subsidies for the oil industry, adding that money should be earmarked for climate protection instead. Group spokeswoman Lena Johnson says Germany should get off fossil fuels by 2030 at the latest. Police stood by during the protest but reported no violence or arrests. Elise Danielle for Matana Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A recent study conducted by the World Weather Attribution Group has shown that the record-breaking heat wave that occurred in Madagascar in October would have been impossible without human-caused global heating. The study utilized weather data and climate models to compare the intensity and frequency of heat waves in Madagascar before and after global heating increased the planet's temperature. The extreme temperatures from the heat wave affected millions of impoverished individuals, although the damage to their lives was not officially recorded by authorities or widely reported in the media. Many African governments lack the resources and infrastructure to accurately assess climate impacts. The scientists involved in the study emphasize that this lack of information makes it challenging to implement measures to prevent deaths resulting from extreme weather events. According to the researchers' calculations, if fossil fuel emissions continue and global temperatures rise 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, heat waves of this intensity could be expected every 5 years. Numerous climate studies have consistently demonstrated that human-caused global heating is leading to more frequent and intense extreme weather events worldwide. Heat waves alone have likely resulted in millions of unreported premature deaths over the past 3 decades.
In Iraq, dozens of families displaced by drought have lost jobs and fallen into deep poverty. Rex Dulay tells us more.
For the past 10 years, many families have lived in run-down gray concrete blockhouses in a shanty town in Nasiriyah, southern Iraq. Drought chased many of them out of the countryside. Most turned to herding and farming. Several others have fallen into a life of unemployment and urban poverty. An official of Dukar's governorate's planning affairs says water shortage has caused internal migration within the governorate. The youth in the governorate, he says, suffer from a high rate of unemployment. Most of the displaced work in low-income jobs, either daily work in construction or simple means of transportation. Water and climate specialist Thomas Wilson explains what drives people to migrate.
Iraq already experiences heat waves and dust storms, and as we've seen, desertification in reducing the availability of agricultural lands. This in turn is impacting livelihoods. Given the lack of livelihoods and lack of resources, be it surface water from irrigation canals or rainwater from precipitation, the lack of livelihoods is driving people to migrate, often to cities.
Rex Dulay from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that 98 million Americans have pre-diabetes. 81% of them do not know that they have it. Now, what can we do about it? Philip Toledo has the details.
You heard that right, 98 million. That's more than 1 in 3 here in the U.S. that has pre-diabetes. CDC warns that pre-diabetes is a serious health condition. It also puts people at risk of other serious conditions. These include heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. On the bright side, research shows the diagnosis of prediabetes can inspire individuals to embrace lifestyle changes, from eating healthier to managing weight and being active. Such lifestyle changes can help delay or even prevent the onset of type 2 diabetes. In connection with the World Diabetes Day, CDC and the Ad Council are launching a new national public service announcements. These are part of the Do I Have Pre-Diabetes initiative. The campaign encourages risk awareness and healthy lifestyle changes to help reverse prediabetes. The PSAs will appear nationwide across broadcast, print, radio, out-of-home, digital banners, and social media. They will be in English and Spanish. To learn more or to assess your own risk for prediabetes, visit doihaveprediabetes.org. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Reports of a mysterious upper respiratory illness affecting dogs has surfaced in multiple areas across the U.S. Our team spoke to some dog owners there to ask what their thoughts are about the threat. Jane Kathleen Gregorio has the story.
Dog owners beware. A mysterious canine outbreak is on the loose. Recent findings published by the University of New Hampshire's Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory and the Hubbard Center for Genome Studies, an unknown upper respiratory illness affecting dogs across the country could be caused by a new form of bacterial infection that is resistant to standard treatments. Symptoms include a cough that can last for weeks, runny eyes and sneezing, and, in a few instances, even death. Using state-of-the-art techniques, researchers have ruled out viruses, including COVID, as well as any typical fungal or bacterial respiratory pathogens. Evidence thus far has revealed a non-culturable bacteria-like organism similar to Mycoplasma. This infection has been limited to dogs and at the moment does not appear to target any specific breeds.
But it's unknown etiology, so it's not responding to antibiotics. So it's something new, perhaps, but it's unknown. So sometimes what happens with these type of infections, it's a co-infection. It could be something that's viral initially, and then bacteria sets in. So the first thing pet owners should do that can help mitigate the spread is to first make sure that you have all your vaccines up to date on your pet, especially if they're recommended by your veterinarian, like Bordetella or kennel cough. And if your pet is having any signs of upper respiratory disease like coughing, sneezing, nasal discharge, eye discharge, or is heavily lethargic, to definitely seek veterinary care. The other thing that pet owners can do is to avoid all contact with other dogs. So limit times with boarding at doggy daycare, or you can hire a pet sitter or a dog walker. Those would be my recommendations.
We recently spoke to some dog parents from different parts of the country who shared the lengths that they go through to make sure their canine companions are well taken care of.
I was so concerned about it, and thank God I'm not traveling as much now, so he'll just be with me and not really interacting with other dogs for a while, or with dogs who we know are well. Basil came into our family in 2021, and he has just been the greatest addition to our family. He brings all of us joy and happiness.
This is Koopa. Yeah, hearing what's on the news regarding this new respiratory illness that dogs have. Even before this thing kind of came about, we never brought it into dog parks just because He's so little compared to the dogs that are there, and dogs are a very social animal. But I'm kind of glad that we made that decision. This guy, I mean, he's definitely a child of the family. My kids, my human kids, will joke that he's the favorite one, but they're not lying. He brings me so much happiness.
In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Russia has been reported adding the spokesman of United States technology firm Meta. According to an online database maintained by the country's Interior Ministry, Meta Communications Director Andy Stone was included on its list with criminal charges. This after Russian authorities classified Meta as a terrorist and extremist organization. It described that the firm could pave the way for probable criminal proceedings against Russian residents using its platforms. The Interior Ministry's database, however, does not provide any information of the case against Stone. Meta, on the other hand, has yet to give its comment to the matter. Coming right up, a pair of elephant twins are born in the Samburu National Reserve. Italy wins their first ever Davis Cup in 47 years. And are the Hall and Oates team breaking up? Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
An elephant in Kenya has given birth to a rare set of twins. The researchers in Samburu National Reserve first spotted the twin babies, who were both female. Twins make up only 1% of elephant births. Sources said the birth was the second arrival of twins in Kenya's Samburu National Reserve in the span of 2 years. Paris has displayed its open-air light trails, a new cultural and tourist attraction to draw visitors as winter approaches. Visitors can browse around 100 structures when night falls in Jungle en Bois d'Illumination, or the jungle on the way to enlightenment at Jardin des Plantes. The exhibit features brightly colored animal-shaped figures to immense illuminated mangroves. According to project head Agnes Joffrey, the nocturnal route is incorporated with a combination of art, science, and poetry.
Je pense d'une certaine manière, on est tellement habitué et baigné dans les nouvelles technologies que je pense qu'en fait, c'est pas parce qu'on va avoir des installations, des expositions immersives qui vont justement utiliser ces nouvelles technologies que ça va empêcher le public d'aller également, par exemple, là, on peut tout à fait se dire après qu'on va essayer d'aller voir des tableaux de Dali dans un musée. Donc je pense que c'est absolument complémentaire.
The exhibit is open for all ages and is scheduled to run from November 22 until January 21st next year.
J'ai passé un super moment. Je suis venu avec mon frère et mon neveu j'ai trouvé ça super adapté pour tous les âges. Il y a des petits moments où finalement les enfants sont avantagés, là, quand on est dans les mangroves, où finalement ils ont limite un meilleur point de vue que nous. Et puis j'ai vu des personnes âgées, tout le monde était émerveillé. Donc c'est une bonne façon de faire passer un peu de culture sur les animaux, sur la nature de manière ludique, quoi. Donc on a passé un
Italian protege Yannick Sinner has outclassed Australia's Alex de Minaur to help Italy secure the first Davis Cup title in 47 years. Matteo Arnaldi beat Alexei Popyrin 7-5, 2-6, 6-4 in a nail-biting singles match to put Italy 1-0 up in Malaga, Spain. Sinner then backed up his sterling week with a dominant 6-3, 6-0 win over Dumanur. It is the second time Italy has lifted the Davis Cup, having previously won the title in 1976. There were scenes of crazy emotions as Italy's team flooded court to celebrate with Sinner, who raised his arms in the air after Dumanur's backhand was called wide to ensure the victory. Australia was bidding for a 29th Davis Cup title but have now lost back-to-back finals, having been beaten by Canada last year. R&B singer-songwriter Bruno Major has started his 2023 concert tour in Europe to early November. From Birmingham, United Kingdom, Erika Celestine reports.
British singer-songwriter Bruno Major is on his Tour of Planet Earth 2023 concert tour. The tour started in August 2023 in Asia and is set to finish in Australia next year. His last tour took place in 2018, so his fans look forward to see him perform live once more. This tour is in support of his new released album, Colombo. With excitement, he is back in the United Kingdom, specifically in Bristol, Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, and finally, his final stop in the country was London. The concert was full of attendees and Major sang just the same Home, Old Fashioned, Regent's Park, Nothing, and other songs, accompanied by the fans who are ready to sing along. From Birmingham, United Kingdom, this is Erika Celestino for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The iconic 80s pop rock duo Hall & Oates are undergoing multiple legal conflicts as Daryl Hall files a restraining order and a lawsuit against longtime music partner John Oates. Catherine Ortula has the scoop.
A dispute over Daryl Hall and John Oates has resulted in an ongoing legal battle, as Oates' plan to sell off his shares in the famous duo's joint venture has prompted Daryl Hall to file a lawsuit, arguing that this was a violation of their business agreement terms. The Court of Nashville has prompted to block the deal and also issued a temporary restraining order against Oates and the other people involved while legal proceedings continue. The lawsuit, which was largely brought forth under seal, is stated to be a private dispute about a confidential agreement that concerns a confidential arbitration process. Hall's attorneys remain private, as with most details from the pair's business venture and Oates' plan have been hidden to the public. Amidst the ongoing issue, Daryl Hall continues to play Hall & Oates' classic songs in his concert titled Daryl Hall and the Daryl House Band that is set to play here in the Philippines tonight, November 27th. Catherine Ortula for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
And to start the week, here's a quote from Albert Einstein. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving.
Because otherwise you'd fall. And also, bicycle, just like swimming, is something that once you learn, you can't unlearn. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing also. And, you know, I think Albert Einstein addressed this quote for his son back in the 1930s, as early as the 1930s, I think. So it just also is a reminder that the path is not always smooth. But we, just like a cyclist would do, he must continuously pedal to keep his balance, but also to keep on moving forward. And at least there's movement.
Something to apply into your day-to-day living throughout this week. Monday is a perfect time to be giving that advice, Ricky.
That's correct. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Ricky Mathay.
I am Nina Richie Lago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing and On Point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.